I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a motion consent to approve the minutes of 8/19 and 31/9/7 of 2021 board meetings. So,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. We have a guest here. We can start with, since Heather is here. Heather is going to give us information about the audit that Marvin and Company did. So if you'd like to go ahead, Heather.
Great, thank you very much. I believe Leslie has shared with everyone the board summary, which will be a summary of the financial statement information. I met with the audit committee on Monday evening, and we went through the financial statements. We spent about an hour together going through the financials, answering questions, that sort of thing. So just to start off, on that 2-page summary, so the district's financial statements, pages 1 through 3, start with the auditor's report. It lets you know that management is responsible for preparing the financial statements, that they have good internal controls in place, monitor those controls throughout the year. My responsibility is to audit your financial statements, make sure that they're appropriate. We consider your internal controls as part of that process. We don't give an opinion, but we do consider them. We also evaluate any significant assumptions or things like that that are included in your financial statements. And then based on the risks of your district, our considerations of internal control, we design our audit procedures. And we believe that our audit procedures are sufficient to provide a basis for our opinion. And our opinion is that your financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects, in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So that's a clean opinion. That's that highest level of assurance that we can provide. You'll also see that this year you had to implement a new standard. So it is referred to as GASB 84, and it relates to fiduciary activities. And it basically, the intention of the standard was to provide further guidance to governments on fiduciary funds and how those should be reported. And what changed for you guys is that you had some scholarships that you previously reported as a private purpose trust. Those were moved from that reporting into a governmental special revenue fund. And you also had your extra classroom activity funds that previously were reported as trust and agency that have now been moved to your general fund. So, we don't modify our opinion for that, but we bring it to your attention because it is a change in the standards and a change in the way that you are reporting. You are required to change that reporting. The other items on the financial statements, so pages B1 and B2 are considered your district-wide financial statements. So that includes all the long-term assets and long-term liabilities of the district and all the funds of the district. You'll notice the largest liability there is your post-employment benefit liability for about $54.5 million. That is your retiree health insurance. So you currently budget for that on a pay-as-you-go basis. So on your general fund, you just budget for your annual cost. But on your entity-wide statements, that full liability is calculated by an actuary that you hire and is recorded as a liability on your financial statements. You'll also see the net position of the district is in a deficit of about $27.9 million. That really relates to the other post-employment benefit liability. So you have this large liability. There is no legal way for you to fund it or set aside any dollars related to that liability. So being in a deficit on these entity-wide financial statements is not uncommon. The size of the deficit depends on your specific contracts with your employees in the different bargaining units. But seeing that you're in a deficit is not alarming. So I always like to point that out because it really is driven by this liability that you're not able to fund. On the governmental financial statements, which are on pages B3 and B4 of your financials, these are more of a short-term focus. So there's an individual column for each fund, your general fund, school lunch, special aid, special revenue, debt service, capital projects. So they all have different funds. New column this year is your special revenue fund, and that's where all your scholarships are being recorded. And there's a new line in your general fund for where your extra classroom activity funds are reported. Your total restricted fund balances are about $3.5 million. There's a footnote that discloses all the different reserves and what they can be used for. That's an area we focus some time on to make sure that those reserves are in compliance with the various laws and regulations you have to follow. And you'll see your total unassigned fund balance in the general fund is about $3.6 million. And You'll also see on page B4, your general fund revenues exceeded your expenditures by about 1.4 million. So that really caused your unassigned fund balance this year to go up a bit. The footnotes are start on page B7. A lot of information in there. No significant changes from last year. You'll see some footnote disclosures for the new standard you had to implement, but other than that, they're pretty consistent as far as the details from last year. There's a budget to actual schedule. So your general fund is a voter approved budget. So that has to be reported in your financials. That's after the footnotes on pages C1 and C2. You'll see your revenues were about 175,000 under budget. That's about 1%, less than 1%, so not really significant. Your general fund expenses were under budget by about 3.5 million, which is 10% this year. That was pretty common this year with a lot of schools. There were decreased costs that you weren't expecting to decrease. No field trips, athletics, overtime, extra things like that. While there were some additional costs with COVID, we found that a lot of districts were significantly under budget this year because it was a very difficult year as far as planning ahead and knowing what funding was going to be available or not going to be available from the state and federal government. So it's important to point out, well, yes, you are under budget. It's pretty rational as to why this year. After the budgetary information, there's the audit report on internal control over compliance that starts on pages E1 and E2 of the financial statements. We did not have any material weaknesses in internal control over financial reporting, so that's a very positive thing. We did have a material non-compliance with laws and regulations to report. So as you probably recall, your unassigned fund balance in the general fund cannot exceed more than 4% of next year's budget. The district was over that limit. Mostly due to some of the budgeting items that we talked about, and management is currently in the process of deciding how best to address the excess funds. There's a lot of options, and there are a lot of things to consider. Schools specifically, you have funding that is being provided that is going to be taken away in a few years. Funding gaps, there's a lot of things to consider. So management will have to thoroughly evaluate what is most prudent with those excess dollars. And that is also something that we saw a lot this year because of how difficult it was to budget. A lot of schools ended up having excess fund balance this year that they're trying to figure out what the best way to use it is. After the report on internal controls, there's a single audit section. So because you receive federal awards over 750,000, you have to have that separate single audit. The report starts on page F1. It lets you know that we issued an unmodified opinion, which means that we believe that you complied with the directed material compliance requirements for your major federal program. This year, we had to test your Title I program as the major program. So we didn't have any findings or anything to report in that area. Some of the other items that, the other draft items that you have is our AUC 260 letter. This is our required communication with those charged with governance. It's just a little letter that lets you know that your accounting policies are disclosed in note 1 to your financial statements. Lets you know again that you implemented that new standard, that GASB 84. It lets you know that your financial statements have various estimates within them, specifically over your depreciable lives of property, plant, and equipment. The compensated absences, which is you have to evaluate the likelihood that your employees will stay and retire from your district. Your other post-employment benefit liability, which is a large actuarial calculation with a lot of estimates. And then your participation in the employees' retirement system and teachers' retirement system. There's also a lot of estimates in there. We evaluate the estimates and all the assumptions and things that go into them, but they are some significant estimates that could change in the future. We did not have any difficulties in performing our audit. We did not have any disagreements with management. And again, we had no material misstatements detected as part of the audit procedure. So that is all very positive information, lets you know that management did a great job, and it reflects very positively on management. The last items that we have relate to the extra classroom activity funds. So you have to have, still have to have a separate audit over the extra classroom activity funds, even though this new standard changed where you report them, the state still requires this separate audit. So it's on the cash basis of accounting, and the report lets you know that it is the cash basis, and that we issued an unmodified opinion that we believe that the financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with that cash basis of accounting. Your ending balances in the extra classroom activity funds were just about 120,000. And then we do have a separate management letter issued over extra classroom activity funds with really the recommendations relate to the requirements that the state imposes related to the extra classroom activity fund. So there's limited controls over cash receipts. Club ledgers are present, but they're not always complete. So not all the information is always reported on them. Deposits aren't made timely. Timely as defined by the state is 5 days. Some disbursements didn't have enough support. And you have some inactive clubs, and you have some clubs that you keep within your extra classroom activity funds that don't really meet the definition, but management has chosen to keep them in extra classrooms so that they can, better monitor them. So that is a brief summary of everything. Does anyone have any questions?
Title I funds, what does that you audited specifically?
I couldn't hear that.
What does the Title I funds consist of that you audited?
So the Title I funds are the funds that are provided through state education department from the federal government that have to be used for your academic intervention services. So like additional reading and math assistance for your students. So we have to audit that those funds are only being used for teachers that provide services to individuals that are eligible to receive those services. So we look at the various test scores and things of the students to make sure that they meet the qualifications to be in that program, enrolled in the AIS programs.
And part of your work is Medicaid compliance. Do you look at that?
So we don't look at Medicaid compliance. The actual amount of Medicaid dollars that you receive is not really significant to the overall size of your general fund budget. So the amount that goes into your general fund really isn't significant. We look to make sure that it seems reasonable to the prior year number, but we do not have any responsibility to do separate compliance over that.
Overall, you would positive audit.
Yes, overall, this was a positive audit, a clean opinion, no material weaknesses that were reported, no significant material adjustments, which basically lets you know that the information, once we're given it, is pretty much materially correct. Some minor recommended adjustments, but nothing that even rises to the level that would be required to be reported.
It's for Leslie. Leslie, we have that pamphlet for extracurricular activities fund. We have that available in the district.
I'm sure we do. I just have to find it.
So I'd like to get that out to the board members at some point so they have that.
Okay.
What's that part?
The extracurricular
Like a listing?
activity funds. Do you want to explain that pamphlet, Heather?
Sure. So that's a pamphlet that the state education department puts out that basically lists all the different regulations under state education law and lets you know what the requirements are and expectations for running those extra classroom activity funds. And the expectation is that we're auditing to ensure your compliance with that pamphlet. It's right on the state, it's available electronically right on the state education website, but Leslie, I can send you the link too, so you quickly have it.
We'll probably talk about this later, but I think that it's an area we wanted to look at. Just because this was a repeat note from you, Heather, from your company about the extracurricular.
Yeah, the extracurricular is a difficult area to get full compliance on. It tends to be an area where you have different students involved each year. You might have different advisors. It's certainly a challenging area. The only time we really find that there aren't recommendations in this area is when the business office has taken over the full responsibility for monitoring that. Business office is very used to everything being, all signatures being present and all the rules and everything being followed. So it's definitely something that is a challenging area for every district. So it is repeat findings, but it's not unique to Coxsackie.
Just want to bring some. Well, not with you. Any other questions for Heather? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your evening.
You too.
You too.
Are the students ready, or should we?
I am thinking that maybe with the reschedules of the game, so we were set to have some girls here, but I think the girls game got rescheduled. And I was expecting some boys.
Okay.
Sorry.
So they're busy playing sports then.
They are.
Well, that's what we want them to do. Instead of coming here. But they were gonna talk about,
They're gonna talk about fall sports season underway, differences between last year, this year,
nice,
and the beginning of the year, and how it's been.
yeah, maybe next time we can,
We
because that's still, I think,
Definitely.
I think we're still interested in that, how their perspective on
Yes,
the
yes,
year. Oh, thanks,
you're welcome.
Dr. Mercer. Okay. So from previous meeting, summary of employee separations.
So it's a pink sheet in your pile there. You know, that's a question from an audience member from the last meeting there. So we went back a few years, just to kind of give you a summary of folks who exited here from CA and the reasoning behind it. There's just kind of your information. Go through there. In the last 4 years, we've had 29 people retire. 3 or 4 people resigned for various reasons. We see 9 teachers and administrators that took positions in other districts. 6 agent assistants left for other jobs elsewhere, not necessarily education. So forth in that regard. There were some terminations, and we also had some budget eliminations for the last 4 years. So kind of a overview or summary of both the employees who left the district in the last 4 years. Also, I have to come across when we put this together, just regionally, you'll see that amongst your colleagues in BOCES, the 22 districts in the BOCES, we've been 85 new board members in the last 5 years. Component districts here, Questar, 11 new superintendents, 11 new 12 new business officials, 51 new principal assistants, and so forth. So you can see areas where the turnover has been. So 16 new CSE directors and special actions. 8 regional meetings. So.
Okay. I know that was a particular person's question, so maybe we can get back to that too. I don't know if she's here. But.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, are you?
I'm
Yes.
not-
Oh, I didn't see you.
Hello.
So there. I can't see.
Oh,
This is a bad spot.
Yeah. But thank you for the follow-up.
Yes.
I guess I just have a quick question while you're talking about that topic.
Well, yeah, we'll come back to you, the
Okay.
public input, but thank you for the inquiry, prompting us to look at that. Any questions about this subject? All right, do you want to mention confirming follow-up to correspondence? Was that a topic? Or was that just a note?
Yeah, we have, I know we had this last meeting, Leslie might have met with at least 1 or 2 parents, and some of the questions they submitted in that writing and stuff like that.
Okay.
I think we're caught up, but if we're not, we will, they'll let us know. Have questions.
Okay. Committee reports. Audit committee, Mr. Wallace.
Yes, the audit committee met this Monday, and on the committee are Kyle, Michael, and myself. And over the last 2 years, the committee has did some other different protocols on how we operate. In the past, usually we had met with Marvin and Company right before a board meeting, and we were asked to look at 40 pages of documents and come up with questions and analyze them. And then we'd go to the regular board meeting and you would get the formal presentation by Marvin and Company. And then at some point that evening, we would vote on that, the external audit. So what we started to do last year, it was recommended and we proceeded with having Marvin and Company meet with us a day prior to the regular board meeting, which was tonight. So we met on Monday and we spent about an hour with her going over the formal audit report. And then what was asked as well was that the board get an outline of this 40-page report submitted to you prior to today's meeting. So you would have access to the key bullet points of the report. So those are two actions which I think will benefit the board and the committee in going down the road further on that. What is being suggested by the committee tonight is that we extend accepting this report tonight, and so the board members have time to review the 40 pages. And if they have any questions, they can follow up with Leslie and myself, or directly to Heather, if you like. And then at the next board meeting, we hope that we could adopt the external audit report. So Leslie can get that out on that. A couple things that Heather had mentioned was that the extracurricular activity classroom, financial statements, that has been a persistent item that has come up in the external audit report. So I think the committee has to meet with management and decide how we want to enact procedures to button that up so that all the documents are in the right order for the next audit next year. I know that the board in the past has commented on that piece of the report, and it was suggested that that club advisors, have to submit that material at the end of the year, and if all the documents weren't in order, then it was possible that that stipend had to wait to be divvied out. That was the expectation of this board. So that's something we want to follow up on and make sure we have a clear understanding with the district office of how we want to proceed in that area. Because I think we need to hear a little bit more if that is currently being done. So if anybody has any questions on that, I know it was asked over a number of years and we had discussed it. So I just want to bring that to your attention. I don't know if Kyle, Mike, have anything to add?
I have nothing to add. Summarize it well.
You covered it. I think how we want to proceed with that piece is something to think about. If that's how to structure that.
One other thing for the October meeting is, and you'll have a copy of it, is a corrective action plan for the major part of the audit. So I would like folks to review that, and that one should be adopted at our October 14th meeting. The thing that has not been corrected yet is a corrective action plan for the extra classrooms. I held off on that because of so much discussion that occurred on Monday. So hopefully we can have another session to discuss your concerns with extra classroom, and then we can craft the corrective action plan accordingly.
Yeah, and if I recall, we talked about if you could come back to us with your plan
Okay.
for correcting that, and then we would together look at that plan rather than having us plan for you. Anything else, Mark?
That's it.
Thank you. Mrs. Bachner for the liaison committee.
My turn. All right, so for the liaison committee, the update is for the rebranding committee and the mascot. The rebranding committee is meeting next week, but between our two meetings here, we had Bart had asked about me sending out the nomination list, which I had sent to the board. I just resent it to Bart as well. for you guys to look over the list of nominations that the rebranding committee had received from the boxes. We, sorry, I'm looking at my slides, which so the rebranding committee is a group of community members who we, as a liaison committee, have really relied on all of us working together. So when I go to a meeting, I have a Google slide that we are working off of, and I type like notes into it, and then the entire committee comes up with where we want to go with that, or if, you know, I'm way off track and they want to go somewhere else, we go wherever the group as a whole wants to go. So right now we are, we took your recommendation, Bart, of we closed down the voting, and then we waited. And last week we reopened it, and the students all got to vote once they all had their iPads. So we had brought that up to the rebranding committee, and they all thought that that was a great idea. So we, like I said, we paused everything and we had opened it up for them to do that. They had a great time. I had gotten feedback from the principals. The kids were really excited to be able to be a part of it, and a lot of them voted. So after that closed for the students, we used the top 3, or the 33% of vote getters, which was the top 3. And we have now put that into a final vote, which is out now. It's on the school website, it's on the Facebook page, there are some flyers around there. We're asking different companies around to put it up on their marquees. Did we do a robo yet? I don't remember. There's been so many
The plan is to,
robos.
yeah, to do another one tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay, I knew it was going out again, as a robo text and email. We've got it on, it's on Mom and Dad's page, it's, I think where else we've tried to put, there's a ballot box here at CE, which the office staff is generously watching for me, and there's a box down at EJA that office staff is also watching. If people want to come in, there's ballot slips right at the box for them, so the staff is just watching it. If they need extra copies, I gave them each like a sheet of paper for them to just make copies, and you know, if somebody needs something, but they're just, it's just in the building. And then Michelle, has anyone called you for an absentee ballot? No, okay, it's also in the paper, forgot that one, we did get it into the paper.
So you're going to explain that is available if there are community members who can't get out, that they can call the district office and request an absentee ballot.
Yep, and that is on the flyers that are making their way around town. If you haven't heard anything, that's a good thing. It's open till the 20th at 4 p.m. And then we will collect the ballot boxes, see if there's anything in them, and we will go through them and add them to what we have currently going with the Google form, which is automatically keeping track of everything, so we don't have to worry about that. And then we are hoping at the next board meeting to have a top choice for you guys for us to have a discussion about.
We're down to those 3, right?
Yes, yep. Riverhawks, Blue Jays, and Eagles.
What do you mean, have a discussion about the community vote, isn't it? The vote?
Yeah, but we have to accept the
Oh,
vote.
okay.
Yeah, that's all. It's just a discussion.
Or forgot
Among
the
the-
tie.
If it was a tie.
Gotcha.
So we just have to have a discussion, and then we would have to accept that's all it is. So the community, there was a lot of votes for the top 14. So I mean, we'll see. So far, we're getting a lot of voting right now for this final round. So
Just want to propose a suggestion, something to think about, is that when we finally pick one of those 3 feathered friends as our mascot, if the board and the committee would give some consideration to use it in keeping with our Native American cultural theme at the school, if the board and committee would consider using a Native American artist as the illustrator when we do pick that mascot, to use a Native American artist to illustrate that mascot that we'll be using our uniforms, etc.
I know we currently have, I always forget the name of the company, it's 3 letters, what is it?
BSN.
BSN, that is willing to put it into a system and make it so that we can then use it and print it on whatever we want and need to for no cost, because we use them for a bunch of different things throughout the school district as it is. So I thought that was really nice for them, because I know it's not something that's cheap to do that, so.
I was looking at some of these Native American artists that illustrate these birds of prey, and there's some great artwork out there.
And that's something that they do, and then BSN can take that and
Yeah,
digitize it for
yeah,
everything.
whatever, yeah.
You know, and, you know, put the CA over it, those types of things.
That's a good idea. Great idea.
Perfect, thank you. It was a good idea, Joyce.
So how many people are on the rebranding committee?
There are 15 community members, I want to say, and then us. That includes staff, students, and community members.
And how often or how many times do you think you've met in general?
We have met every other week pretty much. It has been. This month finally, we were able to, it wasn't necessary to meet every other month because we were waiting for this round. So we meet next week, like I said, as soon as the closes, but it's been every other week since July. So
We put a little effort in.
5 or
Yes.
6 times, I want to say. And it's it's a mix. It has, I sent out a lot of requests for people to join us, so.
There were 24.
But yes, and we had a lot of,
24 community members were invited. They were all chosen from the original voting, and all had volunteered to be on a committee. So we chose 24, and we made sure that it was equal between opposing and non-opposing, and as well as equal from parents and alumni. So we made sure that it really was spread out and diverse.
yeah, and they had all said that they had all confirmed that they were interested and that they could come to those meetings. And the first couple of meetings, they didn't come for whatever meeting, whatever reasons, or said that they had, conflicting work or this and that, so that it is dwindled down to 15, but you have a solid, group that have been coming, and really the kids have been really enjoying being part of it. Most of the kids were opposed to change at the beginning, and they've been a great asset and really been thinking, and I think they've been enjoying being a part of the changing now, as they realize what the rebranding was, and that they actually got to be a part of, what everything was going on. They're enjoying it. They come in with a big smile on their face, so that's always a good thing.
They made a nice contribution
Yeah,
to their
they have.
opinions and suggestions. Everyone did.
Everyone did, yeah. There have been
Group effort.
many concerns, and we've worked through them well as a group.
Yeah, it's been a nice committee.
It's great. So you'll meet, you think, again?
Yeah, we can meet as soon as this closes to go
Okay.
over,
Yeah, Monday.
we'll go over the final,
Right.
what the results have been and where we wanna.
We may want to think about maybe a little line of what Bart's thinking, but or suggesting, but keeping the committee alive somehow as we get into. the
Yeah, we
next-
just may not have to meet as frequently, but yeah.
But as we get into the curriculum development, and I think Mr. Hughes was interested in developing a curriculum for the spring.
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe more, we can involve people in that too. That's the other side of it. And I think there was the nature trail, I think we talked about, and then the wall, I think over. This was a lot of things that we.
There's a lot of pieces that
Use
are
their,
gonna,
their expert, especially, when you get a group of people who are committed to something like this. That's great, and thank you. Who's the fourth? Are you? Thank you, Jamie and Tara, Maureen and Heina. This is a huge piece of work, but I think of great benefit to the district. So thank you. And we'll have to maybe think of some way to thank the committee too, whatever that might look like.
they keep asking me for pizza, but.
Well, maybe that's an easy thing to do.
It is, it's a very easy thing for me to
Yeah.
get to.
Okay.
I'll bring the pizza.
All right. Speak with parents as partners, webinar series.
So we sent this out, parents, we'll send it out again, another what we'll call our type reminder. So this year, we're going to be offering a series of webinars, 1 a month. And so actually the next one is Tuesday, and it's titled Building Empathy and Compassion in Your Child. So again, all these topics have a lot to do with the supporting your children for success, recognizing, coping with your child's anxieties, the numbers topic. December is potential ways to boost your mood and improve your sleep. So that's for adults and kids. How to motivate your kid from within, cognitive skills, etc. So the presenter, Jennifer Shot there, is founder of Building Better Futures. She's been around. A lot of schools have used her for their own in-house training and things like that. So she was highly recommended. There's several schools I know in our region who are taking in this webinar series. All anybody has to do is sign up for it. We send it back out to parents. If you just email that email, they'll send you the link and to sign in. And you can watch live. But what also happens is nice is if you can't make it, you will still have access to the recorded version of it for a year. So if you have to miss one because you're going to the game, or something like that, so that you can go back and you can watch it at your own leisure, for the end of the school year. So, so that's a nice feature as well. So we'll push this out again. Make sure you all have that link, or the flyer, if you will, for it. And push this out some more times, not just for this month, but just continue to remind parents it's available and staff for this year. So I'm excited to be offering this.
Great. Sounds good. All right, the leadership team reports. You want to speak about quarantine board?
Yeah, I just wanted to just update the board, how we're operating a little bit here as far as kids who have to be quarantined, and we have a number of them already who are quarantined. They do have access to what we call here dynamic learning. So if they are required to quarantine because the county has told them so, they can sign on. If they're in the elementary teachers will come in at different times of the day, depending on what's going on, then follow up, for that. At the middle school, high school, they would follow their class for the day, their schedule for the day, and those teachers are supposed to be turning on their cameras for everybody saying it. The kids can access their classrooms live while they're being quarantined, because it's our opinion it's not their fault. They're being quarantined, so that's 2 weeks of minimum 2 weeks of teaching and learning in that regard. So those kids have access to the classroom. So put that out there again. Not everybody's doing that, by the way. We are, so. I don't, there was any questions on that?
Well, I just wanted to say, because I don't know if this is the right place on the agenda to talk about this, But I was wondering at some point, can you go through what the COVID protocols are if a student is sent to the school nurse with like the cold-like symptoms and he has to go home? Where do those COVID, how do those COVID protocols are enacted at that juncture? And what does the student or parent have to do beyond that for the student to return to school?
So if one of our school nurses determines that they have COVID symptoms, and we can argue what those are.
And that could be just about anything.
Yes,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. The child is sent home. They can also, like, I'm sorry, if we send them home for COVID symptoms, they can also access the home. So when they go home, they have, basically the parents are going to test it. You know, or that they stay home until they're symptom free for over 24 hours. They get a doctor's note as well. They go to the doctor says, no, it's, you know, you've had allergies since you were, 2 years old. They can write you a note. So
And that would take the place of a COVID test.
correct.
Okay,
Yeah. The doctor can sign off. That's the same protocols we had last year
okay.
as well. So that hasn't changed at all. We are sending siblings home as well, the kids who are sick. That answer?
It does,
Okay.
it does.
Anything else? Future board meetings.
Putting us roster on this, but-
So did you have something?
Well, it's in your notes there. I shared with you all the rosters. And I actually noticed there was a mistake, so I had it updated today on there as well. Okay, that's not, and we had more than 5 kids on one team, but so that's for your information. Just we have a varsity football team, we have a modified football team, we have a varsity modified girls soccer, varsity JV modified boys soccer, varsity modified field hockey, varsity JV modified girls volleyball, golf, girls tennis, cross country, boys and girls cross country.
Randy, can we look at not having 8th and 9th grade students play up on varsity? I personally don't, I looked at the rosters and I saw that there were some. I personally don't think that their maturity level, let alone their skill level, is at a varsity level when they're in 8th and 9th grade.
Well, and not only that, Tony, but then it kills your modified program or your JV programs because you want, I mean, and we gotta take our lumps when we can't win, right?
Right.
Have competitive teams, kind of like what Coach W did with the girls a couple years ago. Like she decided they weren't varsity right, and so she kept the team. And now they play together, they build with each other, and they play safely. You know, like the football thing is scary because kids get hurt.
Right, well, I noticed, and maybe I shouldn't say anything because it's not executive, but just, I've noticed young students up on varsity and they should not be there. And I know they have to pass the physical fitness test, but I know if they don't pass it, they can be signed off on. So I don't like that we keep doing this. And I know I brought it up over the years, but this year it looks awful. I think our rosters with that many young athletes up.
Yeah, I'm not gonna- I think we also agree on the sport. A 9th grader on a varsity tennis team different than a 9th grader on a football team.
Yeah.
Or a soccer team,
Right, right.
or
Depends on the sport and such with that. And this is, I think, a part of a bigger conversation that I'm trying to get my colleagues to start talking about. All of our enrollments are dropping here in upstate New York. The days of having 3 levels and all your, like on your 11-person sports is going away. And so I think we have to seriously consider just saying, your 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 teams, this. And again, it depends on the sport, as a week to commit to that. Because what happens is we start out and then, the athletic directors are scrambling in the first week of fall sports in August because teams, well, we're not going to have a JV team, and then the teams who do have a JV team end up with like 4 opponents to constantly play.
but then we have 8th graders playing on varsity, but 10th graders on JV. That's not right. Personally, I don't think it's right.
So,
Because again, the student's gonna play on varsity for 5 years. And maturity level, I don't know about my 8th grader
Right.
with seniors. we just need to look at that. Like I said, I've asked this several years.
Yeah, and I agree, Jamie, those are valid points, because I had the same concerns beginning of the season. I did talk to Kurt Wilkinson, our athletic director, about that. And what he shared with me, if it's any consolation, is that there are a majority of schools in the conferences that we play that are in the same boat we are, and they have brought up a lot of ninth graders playing on varsity. If that's any consolation, I don't know.
It's not.
But just to give you more perspective of
Exactly.
what's happening out there.
But then we have 10th graders playing down. So how's that fair?
Do
We're
we
not-
have 10th graders playing now?
Yeah.
Well, in some sports, right? Like, I think, was it baseball and softball was one?
Soccer.
Soccer.
Yeah, like we have an 8th grader playing varsity soccer, while a 10th grader's on JV.
Which we've always kind of,
It is what it is, but,
we've always kind of had that
right, but
to some degree.
just something to discuss.
People probably look at me, 8-man football, Central New York, Rochester area. Kids love it. It's like arena football on a full size field, 50, 60 scores. Everybody's scoring, everybody's having a good time. But old timers don't like that. I'm not a football.
So where does that leave us? then?
I think what I'm gonna suggest is, again, once Curtis gets his
Right.
under his feet a little bit here. I think it's a conversation to have amongst the coaching, kind of, I'd say committee, to get a group of committee people, coaches and such together and have some hard conversation. Like I said, it also has to be part of the conference conversation, with that, but yeah, right. I mean, Coach W, that was courageous on her
It
part to do
was.
that. We support it, my daughter's right in the mix of that.
Oh,
So,
yeah, she was that age, that's right.
yeah, so, but it was the right thing to do for those kids. Should came out.
Okay,
So I will follow, I think what I'm saying, we will continue to follow up. I mean, Curtis is on your, athletic updates are on your agenda 3 times this year, after each season. So he's gonna, I think, can fit that in, so to speak, as part of this conversation. That was another topic, uniforms, it's already on his list for November.
and he's gonna be here. We're gonna-
Yes, the November meeting.
Is there in November?
It's a November meeting.
Uniform things?
The uniform part of his discussion as well.
Just
So,
making sure.
We have the list, so to speak.
Are there kids now in the situation you're speaking of in a sport now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I wonder if we could,
Well, I read the rosters,
Yeah.
it showed grades.
yeah. Wonder if we could look at that, the specific kids. In that specific thing that Jamie's been. so
Obviously,
others are talking about.
That student is talented enough, but
Yeah, I think it's fair to ask people to look at, again, I assume parents are approving, they're signing.
Parents have to sign,
but
but
It's okay,
Program, parents have to sign off on it.
Yeah.
And the kid can be tested out
yeah,
right.
and physical tested, sport tested.
But is that for a 9th grader? Or is that just for an 8th grader playing up on varsity?
So if you have a 7th or 8th grader, we play out.
Right, but a 9th grader wouldn't have to be tested.
correct.
Okay.
They would have to.
No.
Junior high school, you can play.
So the 8th grader would have had been.
It's just
had
The
to
8th
go get
grade,
the
parents
test.
play, and then the players test.
Which we did with the track. But that was different, is what I was gonna continue to say. Track is not like a
Right.
physical,
Right.
they're not, bumping into each, hopefully not anyway. And tackling or slide tackling or getting a ball kicked at them really hard, like there's a big difference. With track and
Tennis is fine.
soccer or football.
all right, so we'll hear from
Yeah, so
you
we'll work
about
that out,
particular youth that are. we're concerned about. All right, now board meetings.
Right, so I think the board is aware that the state has extended your option of holding meetings remotely, in person or hybrid. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that, and, you know, it's your decision. You don't have to, not mandate which way you do it, it's just that you can have that option if you need to. So I just want to make sure everybody is aware of that, here at the board. I don't know what there's comments on that, or if that's your decision. You want to hold your meetings?
I think if there's anybody that's concerned, if you want to write to Jamie and me, if as far as going remote or staying as we are, if you're concerned about staying in public, let us know. I think we want to stay in public as long as we can.
I think, yeah, staying public and being safe about it is
Yeah, be safe,
a
yeah,
big part of that.
yeah, yeah. All right, vaccination for,
Yeah, this is a little late. I just want, again, because it's starting to be conversations against amongst the superintendents and athletic directors, particularly winter sports. I think right now in our conference, there's one school that's mandating vaccines for all. If you want to play a sport, you must be vaccinated. But there's conversations among several other schools looking to do that for winter sports. Just in our conference, but I know like in the suburbans, they're doing it already, several of them are. But so I just wanted to be aware of that. I don't have a position on this right now, but just kind of for your information at this point, to be thinking about that.
Will schools not play us if the students are not vaccinated?
They're still playing us, so it's kind of like, we want to make sure our kids, you know, water league, okay, water leagues in the Patroon Conference, all their kids have to be vaccinated, they're not playing.
And
But they're still playing us, we're still.
and they're only allowing certain number of spectators.
Correct,
That one?
correct, so they're
Yeah.
limited indoor
Sorry,
spectators, and such.
And outdoors too, though.
They might be.
Yeah, no, I wanted to go watch my nephew and I couldn't because it was, I think it's 4 for outdoors, less for indoors or something.
What it was last
Yeah.
fall.
Yeah.
So I just want the board to be aware of that. You know, still kind of gathering my own thoughts on this and information. So definitely, in regular October meeting, I'll come back and see what the folks are at. It's not gonna be like, let's say we don't do this and everybody else does, and they're gonna still play us. We're not gonna lose our games if we choose either way in this situation. So that's why I want you to be aware of that.
And you're having conversations now with them? Well,
Yes, well, because if they're gonna do it, you need to do it quick, because it takes you about a month, right? Get your first shot, you gotta wait a month, to get the second shot. Winter sports start like Veterans Day time.
It's November, right? It's
Yeah.
November.
Yeah, so that's why they're discussing it now. So,
Do you think this is something that will be eventually mandated by section 2?
no,
No?
they're staying out of it.
Okay.
So it'll be an individual district decision. I don't care.
okay. For building and department highlights. Mr. Martino?
It might get more steps. Hello, we've had a really awesome opening of school, and that is all attributed to the awesome staff that we have down at EJA, from our bus drivers to TAs, our teachers, nurse, cafeteria workers. They've just done a wonderful job, really welcoming back all of our kids. So that's been really wonderful. Our kindergartners started this week. It's been a lot of fun to see them. They're very excited. And then this Friday is tomorrow is our PTO back to school bash, and it's an outside movie screen that comes, and we'll be watching Peter Rabbit 2, and there'll be a concession stand, and the kids are pretty excited about that. So some good stuff happening. We're celebrating being back, and the last week and a half of a lot of hard work. The kids look fun.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Miller?
Good evening, everyone. CE has had a very exciting week this week. But we're rocking and rolling, we're back in session, and all of the kindergartners came in on Tuesday, and we had their orientation on Monday. All hands were on deck, and staff is helping out, getting them acclimated into the building. We did have a PTO meeting last night. We do have some programs that are going to be returning, finding very different creative ways in order to return these programs to our school. And we have our opening assembly on next Wednesday. We'll do that virtually because of the spike in cases. And we do have on next Wednesday night, both elementary buildings, an Our Learning Evening. It's a workshop for our parents, and 4 families at a time will be attending in small group sessions. We did this last year in order for the parents to learn about their students' platform. So just to get them a little educated on what they'll be seeing should we need to go into remote learning. Thank you.
Thank you. Middle school.
Middle
Let's be Dr. Mercer. Wait a minute.
I know. It's late. Thank you.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. It's perfectly. So the middle school, Dr. Fernandez did a really great job the first week. It's been, it's been a 2-week run here. So, the school opened, we made the switch over this week, and we're using a new announcement format where we're live via Google Meet, and we have students ready to take over starting next week. And we will, April Bergman and the National Junior Honor Society, or Junior National Honor Society, will be doing announcements. 5th and 6th grade got started with their STEM classes. Sports are underway. You can tell from the athletic study hall and the cafeteria that is very full. Students and staff are getting used to the new schedule with the blocks and the shorter flex, and the day feels like it speeds by. We're all getting into the rhythm, like, oh wait, it's time for a class to change. It's different. Everyone has been so wonderful and welcoming to me, and I know they have been to Dr. Fernandez. And I do want to say, so high school highlight, the last thing I did with the high schoolers, I think you probably saw the picture, they wanted to do the senior sunrise, and it was cool. There were 20 seniors who all rolled out of their cars in various, the new vision kids were like, yeah, this is what time to get here, guys. So they were all dressed and everything, and then the rest of them were in pajamas, blankets, and it was just really nice. And I hope that becomes a tradition. And they did tell me I was invited to the senior sunset, which they plan to do the last Fridays of the year. So it's a nice frame to the year. Thank you.
You gotta do the high school.
That was nice.
Hi.
Hello.
All right, so special ed, we've been very busy the last opening weeks. We have a lot of new students that are attending and getting them into programs. We're excited to announce we have some professional development opportunities where K through 6 special ed teachers are going to be doing training with the Oregon Gilliam towards the end of October, which is a structured multi-sensory approach, prescriptive way to teach literacy for students that struggle and students that have dyslexia. Our special ed teachers are really excited about that. We're also having some gen ed teachers and some remedial reading teachers be part of our training, so we're very excited about that. And then internship updates. Internships are back this year, which we're very excited about. We have one student who finished an auto tech services program over at Questar, and is now having a internship at Coxsackie Transport with the auto mechanic over there, working side by side, learning how to apply the skills that they learned at Questar into the job. So we're very excited about that. And then we have another student who is very interested in animals. So she's going to be working at the New Baltimore Animal Hospital, working with a vet assistant, learning the ropes on that. She goes for orientation next week. So we're really excited. And then we were contacted this week. The Thoroughbred Foundation over here on Farm Market Road is offering a lot of educational programs, and we've been tossing around the special ed department. And it's not just for special education students, we want to open up to all students. We're thinking about
Can it be a club where students can go there and maybe experience that after school and educational programs that they have? So more to come on this. And Dr. Fanning had an awesome opportunity to speak for remote learning and family inequity during the COVID-19 pandemic. It was at the Healthcare Association of New York, and she spoke as an expert panel. They asked her to come and speak, and she was able to share the strategies that we used during the last 18 months of how to engage, our families and help our families through the pandemic. And she said it was awesome. It was great to speak about everything we did, and everyone was really impressed with how Coxsackie-Athens, all the outreach that we did as an entire district. So, go ahead.
Elizabeth?
Good evening, how's everybody? I'm so happy to give you an update. I want to start with the best news ever. We now have public Wi-Fi starting at 4 p.m. in the evening. It's open, it's filtered. Anybody who has a device can access it. If you're outside, you can access it. In front of here, just about to the road, and there is one in the press box for an outside access point. But otherwise, any place. So if you're at a game, you want to stream it with your friends or share it with your grandparent, you can do that. So that's brand new. We've never had that before, from what I understand. And it's really exciting to have. So that starts at 4 p.m. and goes all the way until 6 a.m. We also have BYOD. It has returned. We shut it off last year for a couple of reasons. We have brought it back in a nice, secure environment. We are opening it up to the high schoolers, so that way they can bring their own device to school. That if an iPad doesn't quite meet their needs, they can bring their MacBook, they can bring a Chromebook. So it's their personal device. They will be using their district credentials to access it. It is filtered like it always is. So we're really looking at that layering opportunity. So besides the iPad supporting their needs here in the district, they can bring their own device. But we're also layering other devices for students. So for example, the web design class, they were each received a laptop besides their iPad to meet their academic needs. So we also have laptop carts in the district as well. They're sitting in the classrooms for the students to use throughout the day. So that's very exciting news. We distributed 1,200 iPads in approximately 2 days to all the students with pretty good success. We had a couple things, but overall, for that many students in that short of time, I feel very proud of our team for what they accomplished this summer and what we were able to do, as well as get everybody a device so they could vote, right, for the mascot. We really wanted to meet that need. We also are losing our coordinator of innovation, so we're very sad about that. But as a team, we're incredibly proud, and we're very young. We're new as a whole group. The technician side is very new, and we have our new team members. So we have Frank and we have Tyler. We're very excited about that. They have jumped in with both feet, and they have met probably at least half the staff already, because they're out there and they're at EJ, and it's really exciting for them as well. The last thing that we did was we introduced Clever this year, and that was really to help our students access. It's a portal. It's a secure way to share their information, and they're using it on an app, and that's been really exciting. Teachers are still learning about it, and then teachers will also be trained soon if they're interested in creating a website, and that's with our new platform that we opened up for the new website for the district. Now we have to train the teachers on that platform, so we're excited about that too. So thank you.
Thank you. Leslie, is there anything to add? The only thing here was the audit report.
Yes,
That's done.
but I would be remiss if I didn't really give the credit to the folks in my office, because the audit is like the culmination of an entire year's worth of work. And because they do such a great job, Colleen, Marianne, Michelle, Julie, we all pitch in, and then Ryan Palmer, he had a stake in it this year as well. So I have to thank them all for making it my job easier.
That's why they're all here. Okay, well, thanks to your crew. Carrie?
As far
want to just, so you have all these lovely packages, a lot of data, so you don't have to read it and remember it forever. But the links committee did meet, and throughout the year, the principals and myself will be presenting on how we're doing on our various goals that we set. But you can see kind of how we started out, so then we will share and what our goals are for the year, so we'll share that throughout the year. We also, the links committee created, this is the purple sheet, the list of professional development needs the teachers came up with to meet the links goals. So that's on that purple sheet, and we'll be working throughout the year to kind of, we organize it based on what we needed a whole conference day for versus what we could do in a PLP versus what we could do with faculty meetings, what was technology related, what could possibly be a badge, and what just we needed release time because it didn't impact everybody. It was a smaller group of people. So we'll be working on trying to create a schedule and getting in, as you see, there's a lot of things on there as there is every year. So trying to figure out how to fit that in and prioritize and do what we can do to make sure everybody gets what they need for the year.
Any questions?
What are we doing this year for like reading and working on getting up our reading course?
In terms of RTI or in terms of programs in the classroom? Or-
No, it's
Yeah, well, you'll see, you can see the effect of the pandemic, yeah. But we are continuing, so for the RTI, we're continuing to use FastBridge and then diagnostics to screen the kids and address specific skill deficits in the classroom. We'll continue at the elementary level with Lucy Hawkins' reading program along with her writing program as well. We will provide support as we can to both reading and math. We have right now the equivalent of 8 RTI positions. So those positions, and I say the equivalent because we have 2 people for half-time, so they together create 1 position that makes 8. So we actually will have our first, right now they're busy doing the diagnostics because the universal screening is being done. We're gonna have our first data meeting on the 27th, and we'll be making groups and they'll be ready to go after the 27th with groups for everybody. Right now, they are meeting with any of our tier 3 kids. And then when they don't have to do diagnostics, they're pushing into classrooms that have kids we had identified as tier 2 last year.
Leslie, who's doing the FastBridge testing? Is it the teachers themselves, or do we have somebody else?
It's a hodgepodge, depending on what it's for the straight screener. It usually is the classroom teacher, with the exception of kindergarten and first grade, because it's a 1-to-1.
Okay.
Second grade up to 8th grade, the kids go on the computer and they can take it themselves. The diagnostics are a combination of the RTI as well as the kindergarten and first grade, combination of classroom teachers, RTI providers. We have a couple of interns who are helping out, which is great too.
So, Terry, the percentages on the screen sheet for our grades, when will we get an update?
We will be able to, because once we finish our screening, to tell you where the kids are starting for baseline for September, we'll have all that data by the 27th, so we can probably get your report for October.
Which one, Bart?
On the green sheet?
It's like 2 or 3 pages.
Oh, that,
Yeah, and he's talking about the
Percentages for reading
Yes.
on grade level.
yes.
Not on grade level.
And the results are the 2021. That's what you're printing, and then you have the goals above.
which are directly related to 2019. So you can see we dipped a little, which, is expected for COVID. But like I said to Bart, we'll let you know how we're starting the year at the October meeting.
When you say percent on track, is that what we ended up with at the end of the year? Is that
Yes, so basically the way that FastBridge does it is they do high risk, some risk, low risk, and college prepared. So low risk and college prepared are kids who are on track. It's similar to the way that the state also gives us the scores. So you're talking about kids who are high risk or some risk. These would be kids not performing at grade level.
Those numbers are the high risk and
No, the on track are the low risk and the college prepared.
that would be the kids who are on track.
And where are the others?
It's whatever 100% minus that is. But would you prefer to have the report with
No, I
who's
just-
below or?
Well, I'm just trying, it's a lot of math.
It is a
I'm
lot.
just trying to figure out, well, so like, if you're looking at there's 2022, 76% K through 8 have grade level proficiency in math. And then there's 21 results, and it's on track, and it's 56%, 55%, 55%. Do those numbers mean that 56% of the kids K through 8 were on track?
Yes.
Okay. There's clearly a lot of work has gone into this. And I've done this in the past. I guess I look at to what degree we want improvement, and if we are not meeting what the previous year's improvement level was, I don't know that I'd go too far up with the next year, you know? I guess
Oh, the 76%.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
If we're at
76% was set back in 2019. Don't move that because it was a 3-year target.
Okay.
But you'll see in the links plans themselves, there's a conversation about where they were and where they want to go. But, you know, well, when each building presents on there,
Yeah,
I think
okay.
that's when you get a little bit more clarity about what everybody's specifically looking at doing for their own building.
And hopefully, because you're starting it in September and not November, like that's a large chunk of time, so that's good instruction for this coming year. Because last year it was, COVID.
Yeah.
and people were not doing what they.
Right.
And then, go ahead.
I was gonna say, the other benefit is that, cross your fingers, I mean, I know we've had some quarantining that had to happen, but, you know, all the kids for the most part are starting out the year in school, so we're hoping that because the more they're in school and the more that we can work with them, the better off they're gonna be, so.
Yeah, there was a lot of absent, I mean, obviously, last year because of COVID.
And my question is, do we start tracking these students now? So that way, junior and senior year in high school, we don't have to figure out a way to get them graduating on time. Like, I think we do a very good job in the elementary school tracking these students, but it seems like they get kind of lost in the middle schools. So can we start really tracking them? So that way the high school principal and that team doesn't have to play catch up in 2 years to get the kids where they need to be?
Absolutely, agree,
Okay,
yes.
because we have all this information, but I don't know if we're using it correctly.
I agree. We can definitely, we can present on that during the year too. But I think we have some ideas of how to, what's nice about FAFSA is holding the longitudinal data. But we've always struggled with how to keep the IST notes in a fashion that makes it simple and easy for everybody to access them. So we're getting better, but we probably still need a little bit of improvement in that area.
When I see a difference in grades, like the different, like there's a 56% and a 37%, then I wonder if the 37% needs some extra help.
We do
Because
look
that's
at that
big,
because that's
yeah.
going to correspond to more kids obviously
Right.
being identified for RTI. So that's why it's important to look at RTI from a district-wide perspective because, you know, this part could need this and that part could need that and that grade level could need that. And this
Right.
grade level needs this.
Very-
You
Some
want to
very
make
different
sure
numbers.
you're targeting where you need to target.
So you'll come back with things like some numbers.
Well, in October, we'll share, we kind of have the yellow, the link plan, but there's a couple, you'll notice a couple of question marks, because Gary said they're looking baseline assessments right now, but speaking to your point, you'll see the targets for this year, let's say, might be 60% for the grade level of on track for math, if you examine the current performance report, the last year's performance report.
Well, that one session that's really low for math and reading, they went from 2 classes to 3 classes this year too, so they have a better ratio for teacher time as well, so that should.
Smaller class sizes are identified as a possible intervention. So yes, that hopefully that in and of itself isn't a fixer, but the things that you can provide in a smaller environment in terms of
of grouping and things like that should be
And
helpful.
our contact line.
So we'll keep plugging away.
Okay, so we'll hear from you next month. But thanks for all the work that your teams. is doing.
And principals get a lot of credit, so. that's the thing. And the links, team members.
All right, so we had correspondence to the board from two folks, and then those emails and letters were distributed, and Mr. Square will respond, or has already. So we have any public input, Michelle?
Did I see, I was looking at it quickly before I left, but was there a request for one of those letters to be read out loud? Did I see that
There was,
correctly?
but we,
But you
don't do that.
couldn't do it, okay.
because sometimes there's 30 of them, and sometimes there's 2.
Okay.
Doesn't-
I-
But we expressed that to the folks.
Okay, I see.
Mr. Fielding? Mr. Fielding, sorry.
Yeah, hi.
Did you want to come up?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, that's not being able, which is why I'm not talking about things I normally talk about. I have a question and some things to say. In regard to a form that has been introduced to students in the middle school regarding preferred gender pronouns. Where did that come from? I guess, I mean, is my first question. The idea behind that, push for that, the motive behind that. And I'm not necessarily opposed to people in life using their identity or whatever their preferred pronouns are. But I'm curious as to why it's being introduced at this particular level. If anyone on the board can answer that to me before I say what I need to say. Are we aware of this form? Are we aware of the students being asked to meet with their teachers privately regarding their sexual identities? And I can send you a copy of the form. But is anybody on this board aware of this? Is anybody on the board capable of answering where this is coming
I
from?
think we're becoming aware, but we don't have enough information.
Right, so this
to get
is,
into
so if you're,
discussion.
yeah, it's not gonna be argumentative, but
Good.
so if you're becoming aware of it, how is it that it's in the school being asked of our students, being circulated without top administrators, board members, in most parents? I mean, there's many that have found it because it's begun circulating, thank God for social media, right? The double-edged sword. But I think it's important that this board be aware of what's happening. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have opportunities for people to feel included. And I see that that's what's happening here. And I'm trying to be perceptive and look at the situation from a broader scope than what I think that I've presented with other topics. But I'm actually a little surprised right now that I'm seeing faces looking at me that aren't really 100% aware of what I'm talking about. And I want to, if I can, the form, excuse me, it's obviously a well-intended form, but I think that it could be misused or misconstrued. And it asks the student to provide their name, the name that they would like to be called in class, and then their pronouns. May I use these pronouns in front of the class? May I use these pronouns when I contact you at home? May I use these pronouns in front of other teachers? And would you like me to follow up with you privately with your pronouns. They all seem like fair questions, save for the last one. And I think the last one opens up a door for scrutiny, whether it's well-intended or not. We all know that there are people in this community that will want more answers regarding a question like that, especially on something that is so very sensitive. And it's becoming something within, you know, the larger society that we're comfortable with talking about on some level, but here in Coxsackie, I don't know, and I don't mean to insult anyone, I don't know if we're as traveled or as worldly enough to really understand what this type of conversation can open up to. We already have a bullying problem in our district. And sometimes I think that if we're well-intended with something like this, that if we're not really looking at it and looking at the appropriate nature of it or the inappropriate nature of it, or involving parents a little bit closer, we open up people who may not be ready to come out to their families, to their friends. You know, and pronouns, I think the way that society has attached them to everything. On Instagram, for example, you know, you can put, they ask for your pronouns now. I put I, me, my, mine, and myself, and it's not allowed. So there's definitely a push to genderize that or
I
whatever.
think we have your concern.
Okay.
Just kind of globally say that the board meets once a month,
Right.
sometimes twice, but we don't really get to know or get involved.
Right.
You know, you'd have to be here every day
Sure.
to really, so I think we hear what you're
Yeah.
saying and what your concerns are.
Well,
Did
you
have-
know,
but
there's.
it have to be conscious of time. Did you have, was that your?
No, I have a lot to say, but I'm gonna go ahead and just pull back because there's something further with
Yeah, this is
much more pressing things. But I do think that we need to have the conversation, you know, and understand that we may actually end up hurting people unintentionally. And if you can, I would invite you guys to type in preferred pronouns and look up an article that was written in the Harvard Crimson by a person who identifies differently than what is considered a social norm. And I think she wrote a pretty beautiful article. And I think that if you guys read that, a lot of her talking points I would have shared if there wasn't other things going on right now. But I really do think it's a conversation that needs to begin, and it needs to start at the top. And one other thing, and I'll stop. If we go forward with adding something like this to the normal policy of school operations, we may want to consider an opportunity or an offering of an elective course instead of generalizing this discussion in every classroom, because that creates some situations where it's buyer beware, and it's not having parents involved with what's going on with their children. So if you want to have a gender studies elective for, you know, a grade level that may be able to deal with that maturely, that might be something to consider. But
And I'd always encourage people to certainly follow up with teacher, principal, Mr. Squire on issues like this that come up. And it's like, we're, you know, I'm not sure what this is about, and then follow up with, because you can get them.
Yeah.
Right, tomorrow, you know.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Jessica Vermillion?
I did send emails kind of like about what I'm here to talk about tonight. It's basically, I'm having a really hard time, like with anxiety and sleeping over all of this. Like the mask is hard enough to deal with. And then we get like an email, basically telling us that we need to show our papers. Otherwise, we're going to be subjected to weekly COVID testing. First off, I would like to know when this is planned to be implemented. Secondly, I have emailed Mr. Spire and all of you board members twice prior to this meeting with a response of links about the swabs. These links confirm my suspicions that they contained ethylene oxide. Ethylene oxide has been labeled a hazardous material that causes cancer. This is the same thing found in cigarettes. The primary route is through inhalation, which is quite similar to exposing your mucous membranes in your nose to swabs containing these ethylene oxide. So we believe we are being asked to expose ourselves to cancer-causing swabs. There have been no studies that have been done saying that this is not harmful. Yet there is plenty of information saying how bad and toxic ethylene oxide is. The EPA itself has been pushing for alternatives due to the cancer risk it poses. In 2018, the EPA published a report flagging 109 census tracts across the US as having higher cancer risks, mostly due to ethylene oxide. Or as the medical officer for the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health has said, and every amount of exposure contributes to the risk to cancer risk. There is plenty of information on this from your beloved World Health Organization, EPA, FDA, OSHA, Cancer.gov, CDC, WebMD, and NJ.gov has a great fact sheet. Ethylene oxide has a hazardous rating of 2.3/3 out of 4, which is labeled as serious. Acute short-term effects mainly consist of central nervous system depression and irritation of the eyes and mucous membranes. Chronic or long-term exposure can cause irritation to the eyes, skin, nose, throat, lungs, and can also cause damage to the brain and nervous system. Some evidence has also linked to reproductive issues. The EPA concluded that ethylene oxide is a carcinogen to humans through inhalation. Once again, nasal swabs are exposing your mucous membranes weekly to this stuff. The exposure to the ethylene oxide increases risk of getting lymphoma, stomach, and breast cancer, just to name a few. So on top of requiring us to wear masks, where we are forced to breathe in our own carbon dioxide, a bodily waste product which makes our body acidic, an acidic body is the perfect environment for cancer to thrive. You are asking us to subject ourselves to the same carcinogenic material found in cigarettes with these nasal swabs. In 2019, my life got turned upside down in April with multiple diagnoses and tons of antibiotics because that's the mainstream way, right? They don't really know and just throw pills at you. Thankfully, I self-advocated like I'm doing now and found a functional doctor and holistic team that helped put the puzzle pieces together and give me my life back with zero pharmaceuticals. I spent a lot of money out of my own pocket for this, as TAs cannot afford the health insurance offered to us. So after spending almost probably $10,000 on getting answers and feeling better, I hope you can understand why I stand here before you, asking you to grant me an accommodation, an alternative option to these cancerous nasal swabs. I do not consent to any invasive procedure that you may try to impose upon me, but do not misconstrue this as refusing. I am instead asking for a saliva test option to be provided by the school, the same one SUNY schools are using, so I'm not exposed to carcinogens. I never smoked or did drugs. I do not drink. I am vegan, gluten-free, avoid refined sugars. I meditate, use tapping techniques, exercise, and take very good care of myself. I do not want my health and well-being threatened by these inaccurate carcinogen swabs. I do not trust these tests. I do not trust the company. I'm a CA graduate, as well as a college graduate. I can assure you, I learned how to do my own research. I'm hoping to get an answer to my request for this accommodation. I would also like to know why we are segregating, discriminating, and bullying the unvaccinated. Vaccinated and unvaccinated people can catch and spread COVID. The difference is vaccinated individuals are more likely to appear asymptomatic, making them essentially super spreaders. So shouldn't testing either be across the board or not at all? I would also like to know the truth. And if an employee tests positive, that they are not required to stay home and are expected to come into work. I'm not alone in feeling this way or with these concerns, but many are scared to speak out. I used to be scared, but now I feel I'm backed in a corner. I choose my health or the job I love doing. We all know TAs do not do this job for the pay. It's from our hearts and love we have for our students. Thank you for your time this evening. I hope to hear back, if not tonight, but soon, regarding if you will accept my request for saliva testing, if testing becomes something you try to make us do. If you will not approve such accommodation, then I would feel you have done your research and trust these tests, and you would be willing to sign liability papers, just in case I am right with my worries. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm here at this meeting to address several concerns such as COVID, the mascot, and reconfiguration. I will start with the topic of COVID. I listened to the town hall meeting from 9/13, where Mr. Squire stated that vaccinated individuals who have been exposed or are positive for COVID would be allowed to be in school and would not have to quarantine, and they would not miss any time from school or sports. However, unvaccinated individuals would have to quarantine for the 10 days and would miss school and miss 10 days of sports. I question the leadership and competency of the superintendent, who would think that it would be okay to allow vaccinated individuals who have either tested positive or have been exposed to COVID to attend school, spreading it to unvaccinated individuals who are either too young to be vaccinated as of now, or choose not to get the vaccine. Mr. Squire made several statements about vaccinations and how you should get vaccinated for COVID. Mr. Squire is not a doctor. That is for the parents and their healthcare providers to decide whether the vaccine is safe for their children. I am also disturbed to find out that we are entering the second week of school and there's still no water to be able to be purchased or given to the students. My 7th grader who plays sports is at school until 5:30 p.m. I give her plenty of water to take to school with her, but I am concerned if one day she forgets to take it or I forget to give it to her, what would she do then? The money you asked how the pandemic money should have been spent. The money should have been spent and used to update heating and cooling systems, install air purification system, and purchase plenty of water for the students, since the water fountains are inoperable and there's none for sale in the cafeteria at this time. I am thoroughly frustrated by the lack of planning and disregard for our students. Our children's health and safety is of utmost importance. There was more effort put into rebranding our mascot and reconfiguring our schools than addressing and planning for the safe return of our students. The next topic I would like to discuss is mascot. There needs to be a revote. With the Indians as a selection on the voting form, that is the only fair way to implement a new mascot, with the community voting on it as well. There should be a fair way to vote for the mascot, just as we would vote for the budget, no different, where people would come and cast their votes for a new mascot, including the Indians being on that ballot. And then after the voting is closed, the votes would be tallied as to who the winning mascot name should be. And you would find out that day. The way the process has been spread over months and this back and forth, and all the posts on Facebook and the petitions signed by those who want to keep the name as the Indians, gives every indication that not everybody is on board with changing the name of the mascot. And in fact, this has been handled very sloppily. This has been going on for months, and it's causing, and it's continued saga that keeps dragging out and is causing people to become divided and angered every time it's brought up. A board member made a comment to our local newspaper that she did not have the number of votes for each mascot, but apparently the top 3 choices are the Eagles, which is Ontario's mascot, who we play against, the Riverhawks, which Hudson's name is the Blue Hawks, which we play against, and then the Blue Jays. We keep hearing about a rebranding committee, but never really got a real answer as to who actually is on this committee and who makes up the committee. The statement the board member made that the committee was really engaged in the voting process is a downright lie. As far as the students voting on the mascot, I will share with you my personal experience. My first grader came home and said, "Mommy, I voted for the Wolfpack." I said, "Okay, what did you vote for?" She looked at me and said, "I don't know." Okay. A few days later, my 7th grader came home and told me after she finished her classes, she saw that she had a Google form to fill out for her survey that day. When she went into the form, it said it was no longer available. What a joke. You expect us, the community, to believe that this is a fair and equal vote? You need to go back to the beginning and start over. Because this couldn't have been handled any more dishonestly, disgracefully, and incompetently. I do, however, want to thank and commend the 3 board members who chose to keep our mascot as is. Maybe the other 6 never played sports or didn't care about it enough, or maybe they're just too woke and just need to be replaced. Your job is to do the right thing by the community, and so far I have not seen that from this board. It makes absolutely no sense. You want to change the mascot and then educate our children about the history after the fact. This is exactly what the board does, is censor those who want to keep the mascot and continue to push for changes that nobody in the community wants. As I stated before, this should be a community decision, not just what the board wants. What I've seen is that there is no honesty and transparency from this board. I will restate what I said in my previous letter. We are asking you, as the community, parents and taxpayers, to do the right thing, as you were elected officials, to vote the way the community wants you to vote. If you're not willing to do this, then please resign and allow somebody else the opportunity to come in that will listen to the community, have your place. Because at this point, you do not deserve your position. You are not listening to what we are saying. It's like dealing with our woke government, who will not answer questions. That is your responsibility.
I know you have another topic, reconfiguration.
Yes.
And I want to make sure other people have a chance.
I'm almost done. I
Okay,
promise.
good. I don't want
Okay.
to be rude, but.
Believe me,
Okay.
I don't want to be here just as much as you don't want me up here.
Well, you
I'm
can be
not.
up here. Just want to make sure there's enough time for.
That is your responsibility to the people, is to answer the damn questions. Please stop trying to change, divide, and cause other unnecessary issues and undue stress to the families of the community that are already dealing with multiple issues with COVID, work-life balance, and having to consistently come to these meetings because you have frustrated us beyond our breaking point. You continue to talk about reconfiguration, and once again, there is no one that I've spoken to that is in agreement with reconfiguring our schools. I do not understand why the continued push. I don't understand how many times you have to be told that no one wants this. I don't understand how many times you have to be told that we, the parents, the community members, and taxpayers, care about what's in our best interest for our children and their safety and their well-being. And I don't care if 4 teachers decide that they want to go ahead with reconfiguration. I promise I'm almost done. We, the taxpayers, should be able to make these important decisions that impact our family and our children. So stop trying to change things that don't need to be changed, especially in the middle of a pandemic, creating more unnecessary stress for our children and our families. I ask of you, Mr. Squire, please do your job. I ask of you, board members, please do your job. And listen to what the community is telling you, and actually care about what the community is telling you. When you were elected, that's what you were elected based on. The fact that you wanted to make a positive change in our community and to boost morale in the school to do better for our students. This is not boosting morale. This isn't helping our students. It's causing us to become more divisive. I remember not too long ago when CA ranked 5 stars as being a very good school, and today we barely break a 3. I am not okay with that, and you shouldn't be either. And if you are okay with that, then you need to go somewhere else to be a 3. I thank you for your time.
Laura, on here.
Well, first I'd like to start off by introducing myself. My name is Aurora Volunteer and I am 12 years old. I am in the 8th grade and I have attended Coxsackie-Athens Schools District since kindergarten. I'm speaking to you this night to discuss a topic that unfortunately has to be close to home. As you see, I've been bullied countless times over the years and it continues to get worse. Bullies have not been held accountable. From purposely stomping on my ankles, which can really affect the career that I would like to advance into as I am a professional actor. I would like to be a professional Irish step dancer, and I competitively Irish step dance. to pouring hand sanitizer on my head on the bus, to being picked on for my clothes and being told I'm not allowed to wear certain colors. Those are just a few instances that have happened to me. The bullying has been reported to the school district and employees for the last 6 years. There have been no consequences or accountabilities for the bullies. Bullying is a national and universal problem that affects everyone, whether it's happened to you. I'm sure you know someone that you love who has been bullied at some point in your life. According to the National Center of Education Statistics and Byod Justice Statistics and Stop-Bullying.org, as of 2019, 90% of students in grade 4 to 8 report having been harassed or bullied. 28% of students in grades 6 to 12 experience bullying, and 20% of students in grades 9 to 12 experience bullying. Bullying is unacceptable and should not be tolerated anywhere, but especially on school grounds. When bullying goes on with no consequences, it only shows them that they have more power because they're not, that if they think that they're getting away with the actions, then it only continues. I will not continue to allow my school memories to be negative, although that's what they have been for the majority of my years. The bullies will not continue to make me feel belittled, worthless, and unliked because I am worthy and I'm a good student and friend, and we, the bullies and I, both deserve to have enjoyable time at Coxsackie-Athens School. I would like to ask the school district teachers and those who play an everyday role to hold these bullies accountable. There needs to be an accountability and change that starts with the administration. So administration, what can we do as a school district to prevent future bullying to stop current bullies? Moving on to mask breaks. There have been multiple other students than me who have complained about getting mask breaks. Last year when I was in 7th grade, some teachers, flat out of respect, denied me mask breaks because of where my father lived. Whenever I would try to explain to them that it was in the other prison, Green County Prison, and not Coxsackie Corrections Facility, I was told I was wrong, and the outbreak is where my father worked. This year, there was a few students who have already been denied mask break and have gone home and complained to their parents. All I'm asking is why are the corrections kids being discriminated against because of where their parents work? I know at times we can't take our masks off, but it's so difficult to breathe in all day. It's also very difficult for me, especially because of the asthma I have. Especially during hot and stuffy days, it can be extra hard to breathe. During indoor sports, if we're spaced apart, why can't we take our masks off? I play volleyball, and each position is at least 3 feet apart. So when we are on the court playing, why can't we take our masks off? I had a game yesterday, and every time I went to breathe, I couldn't get my lungs full there all the way. So all I ask is please allow all kids to have masks without issues, and please do something about bullying, not just for me, but for all the kids who have been bullied.
Thank you very much for this very nice job. Is there someone that you can talk to if you're bullied? Is there? Well, you don't have to tell me now, but think about who you can talk to if that happens. And someone's gonna just follow up with you about that. And make sure that there's someone you can talk to. And if you're not getting mask breaks, someone you can talk to about that. Okay, thank you. I worked with kids for 44 years. Not that I don't love adults, but I'm particularly interested in what you have to say, being you're here. And I'm not. So. Ian volunteer.
Hi, you all know me, I'm Ian volunteer. I was gonna talk about masks, I was gonna talk about the mascots, but everybody else has pretty much covered that. What I would like to talk about is how ridiculous it is that my daughter was bullied, not only in school, but by faculty. You can't take your mask off because your father does what he does. That's a little extreme. And Mr. Squire, I'm gonna hold you personally accountable for fixing that. And if you can't do it, I promise you that my name will be the first on the petition, the first on the ballot, to make sure that every single one of you is replaced. And once the board is replaced, I will then go to you, sir.
Thanks, everybody. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yes,
My daughter decided she does want to speak after hearing her roll out.
oh.
I don't know if that's okay.
And you are?
Jennifer Renee Butterworth.
Okay.
She's a student in the middle school.
Yes, okay. Special exception.
Okay. So after hearing my friend and peer speak about the bullying and having this kind gentleman bring up about going to somebody, I would like to say from my personal experience that no matter how many people you go and talk to, no matter who you go talk to, it does not get dealt with. I was bullied for years of my life, and I went and talked to everybody, with my mom forcing me to go talk to the principal because I knew nothing would happen, and I didn't want to. I knew nothing was going to get taken care of. So I would like to say that if you are going to suggest that we go talk to somebody, you need to get it dealt with and have it actually taken care of.
Well, we'll have someone, a counselor talk with you too, so we can figure out what.
We've tried the
Well,
counselors.
that's
That's
where
the
we can
problem,
start.
is we've tried the counselors and they don't do anything.
That's where we'll start, and you let them know that, and we'll check in.
I've tried that, I've tried it, and I've only gone
Countless of times.
I've gone to the principal, I've gone to my parents, I've gone to trusted teachers, I've gone to the counselor. We've all met and talked, and it doesn't do anything. They just bully me more and more every time I
Well,
go.
we don't want that to happen, so,
Then fix it.
yeah, that's what I'm asking you to start with that, and then you can come back.
I started with that 3 years ago and
I
it
hear
didn't
you.
do anything.
Bullying is a terrible thing. It's very difficult. I think we've all experienced that, so we empathize with you.
Was it taken care of for you?
Not always.
No. So
But
you
but I
understand.
would look for an adult that, and you have adults, I know you both do in your life, that you can, certainly your parents that you can talk to, and they will stick up for you.
Yeah.
I've already heard from them. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so superintendent's recommendations, program matters, personnel matters. The motion consent to B1A, B, C, 2A, 3A, B, C, D, E, 4, 5, A, B, 6, A, B, C.
So. Are you continuing?
No, that's it. A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? So carried. Business matters, and motion consent for C1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To page 9. A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Any other questions, Michelle? No. Okay, we'll go around the table for recognition. Amy?
I want to thank, as I did all last year, our teachers and staff, TAs, aides, and everyone for getting our school year off right. We can't do it without them. So thank you to them.
I'll echo that, just that the team effort, inside the building, and also that the grounds have been
given the awful weather and things that we experienced over the last month, the grounds have been taken care of and fields are being lined and nets are up and, everything is getting done to the best it can.
Nicole?
First, I want to just commend the girls for being brave enough to come up here and tell their personal story, because that is not an easy feat. And you're young and you're standing in front of a bunch of adults that you don't know. And it really kind of hurts my heart to hear your stories and to think that things are going on that don't feel resolved for you. And so I really hope that that can change. I think Dr. Mercer is my opinion of Dr. Mercer is that she's very, very, very into taking care of children, and particularly, the underdog. So that's just been my experience knowing Dr. Mercer. So she would be someone I would send my son to. And then so I thank you for speaking to us, and I'm hoping that we can help you. And then on another note, this summer was kind of crazy, and at the end of the summer, a couple of us get together and we send notes to all the staff, whoever you are in this building, and it didn't happen this year, and I want to apologize for that. But I do appreciate all the hard work that you all put into getting into the school year, and I really am hopeful that this school year we can rise above all of the challenges that we've had at state and continue to take care of our children and take care of each other as staff, and just wishing everybody to have a good year.
I'm just looking forward to the school year starting off with some normalcy of programs for the kids, and they're excited, and PTO being able to hopefully provide some things for the kids, for them to kind of feel like it's a normal-ish school year will be very beneficial for them. So, and the gala is coming up for the cafe. If any board member wants tickets, I can reserve them for you, and we have Venmo if you want to pay on Venmo. So we're excited. We have 4 really great nominees this year that are going to be inducted.
I second Nicole's comments on bullying, and rest assured that this board will do everything we can to stop the bullying. If it is still occurring, we'll stop it, and everyone gets the assistance that they need.
I know we met with the new staff briefly before the meeting, but I'm glad that they chose to join our school community.
I know.
Echo. So yeah, we're off to a great school year, so happy. But most of all, I know those young ladies, I think they're gone. Aren't they gone? I can't see over there. But it makes me very sad. So absolutely. Let's take care of it. But so brave of them.
Although they're, I will say it again, I brought the tears listening to them. So again, it's echo part of sentiment, and we'll take care of it.
Okay, well, again, echo. I agree with the people who already said it. And, so I thank everybody who was here, is here, for coming and sharing. And for Dr. Mercer making that quick switch to the middle school, and looking forward to your leadership there, and Dr. And it's just flexibility that we look for our principals. And I do hope for a good year that we can all be proud of. All right, the next board meeting is October 7th, is a presentation meeting here at 6 o'clock. October 14th is a regular board meeting at 6:30 at EJ Arthur. Now I need a motion to go into an executive session for purposes of voting on ordinance and personnel.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Thank you. Thank you, Frank.